What's up guys, Lucky Locks here. Welcome back to another prediction video, and this is going to be for LFA 116, Fremd versus Oliveira, and this should be a really fun card. It's going to be taking place in Vail, Colorado, and yeah, we'll get to see some local Colorado talent on display as well as some greater, national regional scene guys, so should be a fun LFA card, and without further ado, let's get right into the fights. We're going to jump right in with the main card and a bout between Jacobi Jones and Logan Paxton. Don't really touch the prelims too much, don't even really get odds on all of them, so I pretty much just stick to the main card if you're new. And yeah, we're going to start with Jacobi Jones and Logan Paxton, 155 pounds at lightweight. And I like Jacobi Jones, college wrestler, showed some striking as well, training at On Point in Colorado, 5-1 amateur career now, and undefeated 2-0 professional. And Paxton is fighting out of the Nick Diaz Academy. He is a 2-0 amateur, 1-0 pro. He's finished all three of those fights. Has good jiu-jitsu. Striking looked pretty good too. He hasn't fought since 2019, and I think Jones is going to be a tough fight to come back to. Jacobi has been the more active guy, and he's looked quite good. I think that Jones will be the aggressor on the feet, and probably will be able to sprinkle in some takedowns and some control time in this one. He has the potential to finish this with some ground and pound, but I could also see a strong decision here. I really don't see him submitting Paxton. And I just think that Jones, more active, more serious about, MMA and trying to get to that next level. I just feel like mindset-wise, as well as probably currently skill set-wise, I just think Jacobi Jones is the guy in this fight. So I'm going to be going with Jacobi Jones here. And I do have a little piece of him on Friday night betting-wise. The next fight we're going to talk about is Talundzic and Brock Smith. And this is an interesting matchup. Talundzic, 3-0. He's undefeated, 8-1 amateur career, and that was a spree where he only lost his first, so he did have 8 consecutive wins and then 3 at pro. So he's riding 11 straight wins coming into this fight here. He is a Factory X product, and he's fighting for the 3rd time this year. So he's been very active this year, definitely looking to get a lot of fights under his belt. Feeling good. He's still young at 25, still developing as a fighter. And he's a good striker. He was able to get a sub in his last win, but the striking is definitely his bread and butter. Brock Smith, on the other hand, is a wrestler with a 4-1 record. He has a 75% finish rate. He split his LFA appearances 1-1, and the loss was to Joel Bauman, who, he's a good regional fighter. I don't really hold that one against him too much. Bauman's got a 4-0 LFA record and just won a fight on Gamebred FC, actually. And I think that if Smith can get Talundzic down consistently, he has a real chance to win. Talundzic hasn't really looked as dominant as I kind of thought he should have in some of his fights. And I really don't think that Smith can win this one on the feet, though. I won't be betting Talundzic at minus 350. I'm just not that enthusiastic about the guy, but Harris is probably good enough to avoid getting wrestled too badly here and just win this one on the feet. So I'm going to pick Talundzic to get this one done on Friday. Next up, we have a women's strawweight bout between Pauline Macias and Marnic Mann. And this is an interesting one. Macias is an Elevation Fight Team product. She had her first ever loss last year against Gloria DePaula on Dana White's Contender Series. She's had a 3-0 amateur career and has the very prestigious finish by way of opponent vomiting. Just kind of a fun fact when you're going through a record. I don't know how many times, if any, I have seen that on somebody's resume besides Miss Pauline Macias here. But yeah, so she started her pro career with 4 straight wins, 3 of them on LFA, and she finished 2 out of 4. And she hasn't really fought the best competition, but she is training at a really good camp. Marnic Mann is undefeated at 3-0. She is 7-0, including her amateur experience. She's finished every single pro fight, 3 TKOs, a corner stoppage and a cut stoppage in there. I think that Macias could be, or probably is, the most polished fighter that she's ever faced. But Mann isn't, she's an aggressive fighter. She has a meanness about her that I think could be an X factor here. Does have some nasty ground and pound if she gets the chance. Macias didn't seem to cope super well with being on the back foot and not being in control of her last fight on the Contender Series against DePaula. I think that Mann can put her in a similar situation here and wear her down. Macias shot 11 takedowns in that fight against Gloria DePaula, and she was only able to land 2. And out of those 2, she only got 58 seconds of control time with them. DePaula was able to control her with no takedowns of her own for over 2 minutes each round. She had pretty much 8 minutes of control. And she also was able to, outstrike 69-12 on the significant strikes. But, that's a different story. I think that Mann is going to walk forward here, and I think that eventually she's going to start landing. I think that she's strong enough to offer, some good resistance to the wrestling, but I could potentially see Macias being a little more technical and maybe getting a couple takedowns and, returning to form in LFA. Obviously, she's had so much success here in the past. But, that stuff, I'm just not sure if that's going to win it for Macias. I think that Mann might be too aggressive and might be too mean in this one and just really push the pace and come forward and pull out a victory. So at that price tag, I'm just not really that interested in it. So I'm going to be staying away, but I think that Marnic Mann would probably be the pick here if I was going to bet it. So next up on the card, we have Michael Stack, a really good-looking prospect, coming up against Jackson Filho, 145 pounds. And Michael Stack should have a pretty decent size advantage here. I think he's going to be a fair bit taller. He's had a 4-0 amateur career. He is now 5-1 as a pro. That one loss coming to Kai Kamaka, who obviously just had a stint in the UFC. He was recently released, but a lot of people felt like he should still be with the organization. Definitely a good fighter and not a loss that I think takes anything away from Michael Stack. And he does have an 80% finish rate as well. His opponent, Jackson Filho, is 4-2, and he's had some layoffs over his career. He fought lots in 2015, then only one time in 2016, takes a 2-year layoff, fights one time in 2018, takes another 2-year layoff, and fights one time in 2020. So that's 2 consecutive 2-year layoffs, and he's now coming off a 1-year layoff to fight now in 2021. Stack has been a lot more consistent. Filho has had a really tough fight last time out against Dan Argueta, who we'll talk about next. And the guy's 1-2 in his last 3. I just straight up don't think he's on Michael Stack's level, if I'm being brutally honest. I really like Michael Stack. I think that he's probably going to get this one done. I just think he's the better fighter. So I do have a small piece of Michael Stack in a parlay with Jacobi Jones. His prices are kind of getting pretty outrageous at this point, so just be careful. But I do think, prediction-wise, it's got to be Michael Stack in this one. So that's who I'm going to pick in this fight. So that's going to bring us up to the co-main event of the evening, and this is going to be a bout between Dan Argueta and Rodney Mondala at bantamweight. So Dan Argueta, I'm sure we're all familiar with him. He's a Jackson Wink product who was an Ultimate Fighter contestant this year. He lost on the show to Ricky Tercios, who went on to win the whole thing. So, I guess that's not really a bad loss, right? He's still undefeated as a pro, as those Ultimate Fighter fights are obviously exhibitions, aside from the finals, which his fight was not. So Argueta's still a really good prospect. He has an 80% finish rate. He has 3 rear naked chokes on his resume. Good grappler and good wrestler. If he can get this down consistently, I think it's going to look very easy for him. Mondala, on the other hand, is 6-3. He has a loss to Ricky Camp and a loss to Shaden Lealoha. Those aren't bad losses at all, in my opinion. He just doesn't really have any great wins. Hasn't fought since 2019. He fought 4 times that year and went 2-2. He did have a boxing match this year in which he was defeated. Mondala's a good striker. He hits hard. He should be very game. Not sure he's got the goods to beat Dan Argueta here. He needs this fight to stay on the feet, or he is most likely cooked. So I'm going to go with Dan Argueta in this one. I just think that the wrestling and the grappling is going to be a little bit too much for Mondala to deal with, and Argueta will get it done. So that's going to bring us up to the main event, and we have a really good fight for the main event on this card. It's going to be between Josh Fremd and Renato Valente at middleweight. And this was a one I was looking forward to as soon as I saw it. Josh Fremd is coming off his first LFA loss in a title bout versus a now UFC fighter, who we will also see this weekend, Gregory Rodriguez. A lot of people liked Fremd in that fight, myself included. There's a lot to like about the guy. He's really big. He's 6'4". He has a 76.5-inch reach. Trains at Factory X. He has an 86% finish rate. Opened up his LFA career with 3 straight round 1 knockouts. Had a lengthy amateur career going 8-2 with a 75% finish rate. And has some collegiate wrestling experience to supplement that striking, so that's always nice to have. I honestly believe that he could be a UFC 185-pound fighter. He probably would have been. If he beat Gregory Rodriguez in his last bout, that's probably him that gets the call up to the UFC. I think that was a case of 2 prospects that are ready for the next level. Whatever major organization it happens to be, Bellator, UFC, One Championship, whatever it is. I think those are 2 guys that are probably ready to take that next step. I think Gregory Rodriguez definitely showed that he is. And I think we'll see Josh Fremd in a major organization sooner rather than later. This is a big fight for him to get back on track. And Renato Valente is no slouch. He comes in with an 8-4 record, but he's a really damn good 8-4 fighter. He was defeated by Naib Lopez, who is now 11-0 as a pro. Another loss was the MMA Lab product, Mark Martin. And I had money on Martin in that fight, and it was a lot closer than I thought it would be. Renato Valente definitely made me sweat in that one. Valente has fought on ACB, fought on Bellator, and picked up a win on LFA LFA in his last fight against Chibweka. He hits hard, he is aggressive, he has solid striking. I just think he's going to be at a bit of a speed disadvantage here. I like Fremd here. Renato Valente is really good, and he's a guy who can give anyone on the regional scene a good run for their money. He's always live. I just believe that Fremd is on that level above where Valente just isn't quite able to get it done. I see Fremd being sharper, being quicker here, and finding his way to a victory. I think probably inside the distance if history is anything to go by, but Valente is definitely tough, and he could stretch this one out and make it close down the stretch. But yeah, I think that Josh Fremd is probably the side here if I was going to bet. All right, that's going to do it for me on this one, guys. Thank you very much for taking the time to watch. I always appreciate everyone who takes the time to like, subscribe, comment, all that good stuff. I appreciate you all. Hope you have a great day. Best of luck with your MMA bets on Friday and this weekend, and I will catch you on the next one. Take care.